most dishonest, calculating, social climbing, fake people we have ever seen on the global stage in quite a long time.
Meghan Markle is under fire again. Still, has she ever not been under fire? And this time, Maureen Callahan absolutely tore her to shreds. But let's be real, Meghan doesn't seem tired of the backlash. If anything, she's clinging to the spotlight like those people in the first lifeboat of the Titanic. After a string of flop projects and relentless media roasting, you'd think that she'd take a breather. But nah, she's back with another podcast.
I'm Meghan, and this is Confessions of a Female Founder, a show where I chat with female entrepreneurs and friends about the sleepless nights, the lessons learned, and the laser focus that got them to where they are today.
Okay, so now with this new podcast, Confessions of a Female Founder, we're being sold the same garbage image again. Meghan, the visionary Meghan, the businesswoman Meghan, the leader, except none of those titles hold weight anymore. God, we're tired of this lady.
I'm definitely not listening to her if she's the expert, because she keeps getting her trademark paperwork kicked back. I would not say that she's somebody that I would trust with business advice in any way, shape, or form.
Is she even qualified to host this kind of podcast? Let's be honest, what exactly is she bringing to the table other than a trail of PR disasters and half-baked ventures and ideas? See, she's got a brand that was torn apart by critics within days of launch. A podcast she barely even hosted, and let's not forget Archetypes, the 2022 flop that was slammed for being overly polished, painfully shallow, and let's face it, total fluff. Well, now she's back with another brand, as ever, and not even that could dodge the avalanche of public skepticism. But here she is, bold as ever, launching a new podcast right in the middle of what looks like her latest brand collapse. A podcast about building billion-dollar empires from somebody who hasn't even cleared the trademark office? Come on, that's either the boldest PR move of the year or it's just completely tone deaf. You know where my vote goes. Even journalist Maureen Callahan couldn't help but weigh in, and spoiler alert, she did not hold back.
Confessions of a Female Founder. My initial reaction was, founder of what? What have you founded?
Oh, hey, it's almost exactly like what I said. It's been hardly a week since As Ever launched, and Meghan probably sold only a handful of overpriced items, courtesy of the pre-planted buyers. So how the hell can she call herself a founder at this point? And who are these women Meghan is going to interview on her podcast? A podcast about female founders should feature powerful, inspiring women in business, household names, disruptors, women who've changed industries. But according to the teaser, we're not getting that.
And I also think if she had any guest with any degree of star power, and she wants the Sarah
Reese
Blakely's of the world,
Yeah.
the Emma Grede, if I'm saying her right, who works with the Kardashians and helped found Good American. Those are the women you want to reach your generational cohort, as well as the women a little bit above, the women a little bit younger. We're not seeing any star names.
I think we've already got a pretty good idea about Meghan and Harry's social circle, thanks to her reality show, With Love, Meghan. The guests that she featured were hardly household names, but they were just a bunch of relatively unknown people. And honestly, that says a lot. For a couple who brand themselves as global influencers, the lack of top-tier guests is pretty telling and embarrassing. It suggests that their supposed pull in celebrity circles isn't as strong as they'd like us to believe. Yeah, if anything, they're tugging people. But you know what? It's like the A-listers are steering clear, uninterested in being linked to the Markle content machine.
The Spanx founder was the only woman to take a photo with Meghan, but reports were circulating at the time that none of the other female entrepreneurs wanted their photo taken with Meghan there.
Oh, sweetheart, that's kind of a harsh blow, isn't it, Meghan? The Duchess of Sussex was present at an event with a room full of female entrepreneurs, women who know what it means to build from the ground up, and not a single one of them seemed interested in taking a photo with her. Why? What could be the reason? Maybe they didn't want to catch her cooties or her brain rot or her cancer brands. Well, for this one, I think I'm gonna agree with Maureen.
People who work really hard kind of have an allergy to people who don't work very hard, but want all of the spoils.
And this right here is the problem. Meghan wants the glamour of being a founder without doing the actual, groundwork that it takes to be one. Yeah, she's trying to be a silver spooner. She's trying to skip straight to the glory. No grit, no grind, no real hustle. In the real world of entrepreneurship, that's not how it works. You can't just slap your name on a brand and expect instant credibility. Business, media, storytelling, it all demands that you have a lot of skin in the game. And the female founder community, they are not impressed by fake royal titles. They respect the builders, the ones who've scraped their way through setbacks and earned their place at the dinner table. So yeah, when somebody parachutes in with zero real-world experience and tries to speak for them, don't be surprised when the room goes cold.
I mean, these are women who, say what you will about them, whether you're fans of them or not, they work hard. They have created other revenue streams knowing that they are actresses in an industry that has only recently begun to value maturing women. And Meghan, I think, just is recognized as like a sort of this loss leader in every single bucket.
Before this latest attempt, Meghan had already dipped her toe into the podcast game with Archetypes back in 2022. Remember that? No? Neither does the rest of the world. That slow-motion real-time train wreck? Yeah. It was hyped as her big media comeback. Meghan Markle, feminist thought leader, stereotype slayer, modern icon, and a power blazer. The promo promised a bold, culture-shifting series that would dissect the labels society puts on women. It was her chance to pivot away from palace drama and prove that she had a lot more to say. Oh, but how did that go? Ooh, yeah, not great. Instead of focusing on the archetypes, it turned into, surprise, surprise, The Meghan Show. Episode after episode felt more like PR for her own story than any real exploration of the issues. The empowerment issue got lost somewhere between the curated trauma and the voiceover dramatics. And look, I think I know a thing or two about voiceover dramatics, but hers were over the top and super fake. Unlike mine, which are genuine. Okay, man, look, here's the kicker, all right? She didn't even host half of the interviews. No, while the podcast carried her name, most of the legwork was done by producers. They booked the guests. They led the conversations. Meghan just popped in for a few voiceovers and emotional sound bites. Ghost hosted is honestly really the only way to describe this one. And yet, now she's launching another podcast, still branding herself as a founder, a media maven, a thought leader, but the receipts, still missing.
Everything we heard from the people who worked on the initial Archetypes podcast was that Meghan did zero work. She barely did any interviews. There were people who conducted those interviews behind the scenes and then wrote questions in for Meghan to loop in afterwards.
And yet there she was, proudly flaunting the title of creator, producer, visionary, etc. Excuse me, I think I threw open my mouth. But let's be real. What does Meghan Markle actually know about building a business from the ground up? Huh? Nothing? That's what I thought. Come on, this is somebody who treats entrepreneurship like a Pinterest board, right? The aesthetic immaculate, but the commitment non-existent. Time and time again, she jumps into projects for the optics, for the press release, the applause, the perfectly curated deadlines. But when it comes to the grind, the real unfiltered slog of creating something meaningful from nothing, yeah, this faker is nowhere to be found. She skipped her own podcast interviews for crying out loud. The face of the show couldn't even be bothered to sit across from her guests, and that says everything. What Meghan's selling isn't substance, it's surface, and a fat load of BS at that. A shiny brand image wrapped in polished PR and Instagrammable sound bites. The illusion of effort, not the actual effort itself, that's being done by everybody else. And in the end, none of it sticks, none of it lasts, because the truth is, you can't fake the hustle forever. At some point, people see through the glitter and realize there's nothing underneath but good lighting and empty promises. That and a soul-sucking void who's so desperate for the spotlight she'll do anything.
And she also just lacks a complete interest in other human beings, which is essential if you're going to do a show that is about interviewing other people and finding out what makes them tick. You have to really like other people and be interested in them and want to hear their stories and maybe learn something.
Learn something from others? Yeah, right, no chance. The Meghan Markle that we've all come to know simply isn't wired that way. growth requires that little thing called humility. It demands the ability to self-reflect, to admit missteps, to, really listen to voices other than your own. Oh, but Meghan, she is far too consumed with crafting and preserving her own narrative to make room for anybody else's. The sheer narcissistic personality that she carries around makes it impossible for her to genuinely listen to and learn from other people, as she's way too busy promoting her own image and agenda to take in any real feedback or criticism.
Thing I noticed, if you look at the first couple of episodes, every comment she makes is about herself. She's got her friend Uncle Daniel's there, and then there's the Argentinian woman, and then there's a chef she brings in, and Mindy Kaling. So there are no questions or comments about them.
That's the problem with her. Every project, every appearance, every empowering speech somehow circles back to Meghan. Her struggles, her triumphs, her perspective. Oh my God. Even when she claims to uplift other women, their stories become nothing more than props in the larger production of brand Meghan. Her self-absorption and lack of self-awareness render her incapable of growth or improvement, dooming her to repeat the same mistakes over and over and over again, but she gets a free pass because of who she married and popped out kids for. And when that criticism inevitably rolls in, as it always does, she doesn't recalibrate, she doesn't learn, she doubles down, plays the victim, blames the media, blames the palace, blames the public for not understanding her vision. But never, not once, does she ever stop and consider that maybe, just maybe, she's the problem. Spoiler alert, Meghan, you're the problem.
Well, again, I think, Kinsey, the reason why you would never see a behind the scenes about the making of is because, like all narcissists, again, my opinion, narcissists never take the blame. They are never wrong. It's always somebody else's fault. That's why the burn and churn with her staff. It's always somebody else.
This refusal to accept responsibility to evolve is what keeps her stuck in the same loop of failed ventures and superficial rebrands. She launches a new project, rides the initial wave of curiosity, then watches it collapse under the weight of her own ego and hollowness. And instead of digging into why it didn't work, she pivots to the next idea. Louder, shinier, even more disconnected from reality. Come on, this is a cycle that we've seen way too many times. Archetypes, flopped. Her Spotify deal crumbled. Her reality-style Netflix ventures failed to resonate. And now, Confessions of a Female Founder is shaping up to be another chapter in the same predictable saga. Because how can somebody who refuses to listen, refuses to learn, and to grow ever hope to lead? And come on, apart from her royal title, or rather her former royal title, which she now clings to with a grip of desperation, Meghan has also started using her children as subtle promotional tools. She markets herself as a fiercely protective mother who shields her kids from the public eye, yet conveniently gives calculated glimpses of them in her media projects. These rare appearances aren't accidental, they're carefully curated moments designed to generate buzz.
And this is just my opinion. I'm not a doctor, but I think Meghan is a malignant narcissist. And anyone who has experience with a narcissistic mother will know the children are props. They are extensions of the mother. They're not fully realized individuals.
Come on, if she were genuinely committed to keeping her children out of the spotlight, she wouldn't be parading them in front of cameras during her docuseries or referencing them strategically in interviews and promotional content. Because, true privacy means keeping them away from the media altogether, not exploiting public curiosity for clicks and headlines.
Some stuff to sell. And what she's trying to sell, and it's a hard sell, is domesticity, familial warmth. And what better way to do that than to bring out the children?
It's a classic bait and tease strategy here. You build anticipation by withholding. Then you feed the frenzy in small manipulative little doses. That's a good boy. So she's using her kids, if they're even actually hers, and not some kind of rented props, as some people out there claim they are, in order to benefit herself. I know, that's some pretty heavy suspicions and speculations against her, but again, what else would you expect from people for a narcissist who could throw anybody under the bus for some cheap fame and recognition?
We, again, only get to see the backs of their heads or maybe a tiny little hand here.
And the worst part of all of this, people still fall for it. The same people who've got 2 brain cells fighting for 4th place. The carefully timed baby photos, the name drops, the vague mentions of parenting struggles, all crafted to keep her in the headlines while pretending to crave privacy. Meghan doesn't want to disappear from the spotlight. She wants to control it. She wants to embody it. She wants to take it within her body and make it of her own. And honestly, she wants to control and manipulate it. She wants to make it work for her narrative while playing the victim in everything that she does. And now, with Confessions of a Female Founder, she's doing it all over again. Except, this time, she's trying to position herself as some kind of a startup guru. I mean, come on. The irony here is laughable. A woman who's never built anything from scratch, who's ghosted her way through a podcast, and who can't even name drop real industry trailblazers without making it about herself, now wants to lead a conversation on what it means to be a founder. Excuse me while I go and laugh at the absurdity of it all.